Well, hey YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger, and I'm here on Sunday, January 1st, 2023. We're taking a look over at zoom.com, zoomcorporation.com, and we have the new faces of the average guitar player. Here they are. And tone for days, the Zoom G24 and G2X4 are released about 2 weeks ago. I think on December 16th is when these dropped. And I was looking on it was a Spanish language, it was like a Mexican Zoom page, and reading the comments, and people really do not like the way that these devices look. They were like, this is a step back. It looks like something from the 90s. And everyone was saying, no one's going to buy these devices. Why would you buy a Zoom? It's old news. It's the same stuff because they're looking at the screen, it's not color. And it's just interesting to me. You'll dial in amazing sounds right out of the box. Well, all of these people that commented, and I read 2 huge pages of comments, and not a single one of them was positive. People just taking the time to mouth off with negativity about these devices, and no one had heard it yet. And it clearly says, like, we updated our modeling. It's proprietary impulse response system that uses 3 different levels. So it automatically mixes these 3 different impulse response that are loud, medium, and quiet. So you can do stuff like turn your volume knob on your guitar and it'll clean up. So to me, anytime someone comes out and says, hey, we updated our amp modeling, we updated the impulse response system as well, to me that's one thing. Like, I really am interested in hearing this, especially because while they might not look like something that you would find on a pro stage or studio, this is the type of stuff that I like. I might be able to find one used for $75 a few years down the road, or get lucky and run into one at Goodwill for 19 bucks. So getting back to the point I was trying to make, as guitar players, is this really who we are? Are we is it really like the Emperor's New Clothes? Like, it's all about what it looks like? Because it seemed to me, that's what I read. It was, people were lining up. It was like a pitchfork mob. Like, oh, we just hate these Zooms. And, it's straight back out of the 90s. Who would buy that? And blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you haven't even heard it yet. I mean, nobody in a real stage, nobody, only the guitar players are going to go up and look at your pedal board if you're playing live, right? But nobody else who's in an audience is going to look or care. And I think that's the first thing that you need to kind of just to put yourself in check if you start getting carried away with gassing and tone and with just the ridiculousness of it all. That a whole group of guitar players already made up their mind that this thing is bad because of what it looks like, and because the display isn't color, and because they've seen all these models before. Which, yeah, it's a lot of them are the same models going through here. I'm very familiar with the Zoom library of effect and amp models because I just went and grabbed my Zoom G10N and blasted firmware into it, which erased all of the effects in it and replaced all of its memory with the effects that I personally chose from a list including 6 other Zoom processors. So going through this process, I believe you can add 40 new effects to your Zoom G1 ON. I'm not sure. It seemed like a lot more than that to me. I got rid of all of the amplifiers and just loaded it up with all of the effects. And then there was some that wouldn't fit, so I had to go and like trim some of the choruses out, and certain effects that I like, the dual phaser, I know it's a bit much. I would never use it. So what I'm planning to do is try to run this thing in the effects loop of my NUX MG30. And the way that works is you can move the effects loop to any position you want in the chain, and you can turn it on and off within a patch. So the unbelievably fantastic sounding spring reverb that lives in this Zoom G1 ON, it's called a 63 spring, and it's a model of a Fender tube spring reverb, and it's the only digital model of a spring reverb I've ever heard that's worth its salt. Typically you'll run into these reverb pedals that have different modes, and there'll be a spring reverb mode on it, or there'll be some spring reverb, even VSTs. And I gotta tell you, the Fuse Audio plugins, they've got some decent spring reverb stuff in there. But one of the older spring reverb is terrible. The newer one, the black rack mount looking one, that's awesome. I forget what it's called, the 160, or I forget what it's called, the 480 something. Now the other thing is the really cool delays. They've got stuff like a filter delay, and the way I set that up is almost like the Eddie Van Halen phaser sound. And what I'll do is I'll have a single repeat that's in the tempo with the song, but it's a really tight, really short repeat, and then the phaser sound is only on the repeat. So it keeps my clean tone unmolested. And that's fantastic. There's a lot of really unique stuff if you go through a Zoom G1 and you program it with the stuff from the MS50 and the MS70. You can even get the bass effects stuff if you want, synths and stuff like that. So, and of course the famous Zoom particle reverb is absolutely incredible. I believe that's a model of a Line 6. And then they have stuff that, forgive me, it's off of the Eventide, like the Black Hole. So there's some really tricked out reverb and delay patches inside of this $40 Zoom G1 ON, and it sounds fantastic. The sound quality on this thing's fantastic. The amp models weren't so hot because it's a little older, but I got to tell you, there is one particular sound, and I mean, the MS50 1959 is such a great amp model. It has one just kick-ass amp model, and then a bunch of other decent ones. Okay, the Fender combo is fantastic, and the 59 Marshall is really a spectacularly great amp model. But there is a sound in this box if you use the ZMP1, which is, there was a company called ADA, and they made this rack mount preamp that had a digital memory. So it was a tube preamp, okay, but it had a digital memory. So you could set this thing up, make patches with it, and then save those patches digitally and call them up via MIDI. So this was found in the racks of a lot of pro players because it was a excellent guitar preamp. It was based on a 12AX7 tube. and it got real nice and dirty, and it had that tube thing in spades, but it had uh, the digital memory. Now, I saw another guitarist saying how it was a piece of shit, that it was this terrible thing, and he tried it once and sold it, and like, if you know what that really is, it's a fantastic piece of gear. But he saw the digital readout on it, and he said that digital preamp from ADA, it's digital, and so it's bad. Well, it has a digital memory, but that doesn't interfere with the signal path, which is tube. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is just don't be one of those guitar players that's so unbelievably close-minded, and then go on the internet and shoot your mouth off about something you don't know what you're talking about, And I don't know what I'm talking about. I heard a couple demos on the internet of this thing. I went to the Zoom page and listened to some of the amps. Some of them were impressive. I'm not sure if this is going to be a huge step forward. I know what they're charging for it. It's $200. So looking at the actual unit, it's economy. You've got your input, your unbalanced outputs, and then there's a USB. 9 volt 500 milliamp, and I think that maybe the USB might be on the side, and there's a headphone port. And they give you 250 presets, which are their songs, and they go in the order of time. So it starts off in the 50s and ends up with the more modern stuff. And then there's 50 user patch locations. You get 7 at once, and they're, like I said, their spring reverbs are worth the price of a ticket alone. That is if they still are. I could be wrong about that. I'm talking about the spring reverb sound that was in my Zoom G1 and in my Zoom G3, which turns out it's not. The Zoom G3 is not on the list of effects that you can use this Zoom effect manager software to get new effects. And it didn't come with stock. Like, I have a Zoom B1ON, that's a bass processor, and it looks just like the G1ON, but it's got red plastic. And I could flash that and put all guitar effects on it if I wanted to. But it's my wife's, and I won't. So yeah, it's optimized for amps, monitors, and headphones, but it's always going to sound better through a full range, never through an amp. But I don't know. Maybe they figured that one out as well. Like I said, I'm a fan of this company, although it is a case of you get what you pay for. This is much more entry-level stuff rather than pro gear. And what I have right now with my NUX MG30, I don't think that this could rival that. Although the MG30 was $50 more, that $50 was well spent. But it's still exciting to me to see that they released this. I can only hope that Zoom will continue to improve. Mind you, when they came out first, they had developed a reputation of having really poor quality distortion sounds. That was the thing about Zoom. Like, well, their effects aren't bad, their delays and reverbs are all right, but their distortions are bad. So as time goes on, that's going to be, hopefully they can continue their steps in the right direction and improve on the guitar tone end of things. And I think this new IR system where you can clean up is definitely a step in the right direction. But on the other hand, are these things going to make a dent? Because there's a lot of competition right now in this $200 multi-effect market. So if you're interested in checking this out, you can come over to the Zoom Corp page, and they've got sound samples here. I'm not going to click on them. You guys can check it out. I was impressed. I did hear a YouTube demo that was not impressive. It was a low quality kid in his bedroom with his torso, you know, and it was like he filmed it with his phone. And it sounded bad. It really did. But I know Leo did a video announcing this, and he's excited to get one. So Leo is going to have our back. I had a real good New Year's Eve yesterday. Maybe I overdid it a little bit. We watched Fetters is Cheap, and then dove into some live Duran Duran 1982, and then the Grateful Dead movie, which I can't tell you how much I enjoy watching the Grateful Dead movie. If you're not a fan of the Grateful Dead and you're a guitar guy, I would twist your arm to watch that. It's on YouTube. Put it on in the background and get yourself familiar with that movie. It's an absolute classic piece of American psychedelia. And Grateful Dead, whether you like them or not, you know, they were a true American band. They were an entity. They didn't have that following of people that gave up their normal lives for nothing. And what a lot of people don't really know about the Grateful Dead is a lot of times when you hear them play live, like my wife always jokes around, they sound like a normal band tuning up. This is a quote from, I forget where this quote is, but I know I've seen it more than once. And this person says that you could go to see the Grateful Dead, and some nights it would be mediocre, some nights it would be good, some nights it would be bad. But then all of a sudden, some incredible magic would happen on stage, and it would also have to do with the audience getting off on what they're doing and releasing this energy that recharges and phases through the performers. So it's like a feedback loop of positive energy, this thing that happens. And it'll happen when the band, like, it happens specifically because of what they're playing is really tight and really musical, and they're all flowing at the ends of their capacity. You know, they're all really, really in the zone, and they're playing really well, and the band sounds fantastic, and then the audience is getting off on it, and it just turns into this vibrational moment of ecstasy. And you can see that happen in this movie. I rewound it about a dozen times last night, to the chagrin of my wife. And this is embarrassing to say. It's at the last verse of Casey Jones. Is what they captured on film in the Grateful Dead movie is this magical moment that I heard this guy talk about. And I always thought he was talking about when they would do a Space Jam or something, you know, and I'm sure that this can happen at whatever point in whatever song. But this particular night, when it happened, was on the last verse of Casey Jones. And the last scene, one of the last scenes, they show a shot of the audience from the stage. And everyone is hopping up and down. And you see a couple guys clapping over their heads. There's one guy on the right doing it, one guy on the left. They're obviously driving a train high on cocaine. These guys that are clapping so furiously. But this scene is really something else. It's one of these magical moments, and you can see that in the Grateful Dead movie. Now, today was a bit of a bummer. I was not feeling so well this morning. And I was also expecting a delivery, which didn't happen. I don't know if you guys ever had FedEx delivery. they tend to, and I've got to say this on camera because I need to get this through my skull. Hey, Petey, if you buy something and FedEx is going to drop it off, they'll go, oh yeah, it's going to come Friday. And you'll go, man, that's quick. And it'll never, it always is at least Saturday, if not Monday, with FedEx. And with the holiday, yeah, it's going to be Monday because if I'm lucky, it's going to be Monday. So this here, we're looking at this Look Movie 2.to, and I know you don't care. This looks good. It looks sad at the end, but I'm definitely going to watch this story about this ocelot, this baby ocelot. And then this is the Callahan guy at the January 26th. Definitely going to watch that. I always enjoy his content. But the big one, the big kahuna, is this. I have been waiting and waiting. Horror comedy documentary. Oh, that's so funny. I don't know if you know my... Oh, there he is. There's my friend. I don't know if you know my my Robert Fripp story. We saw them on Halloween. And I was watching Belew the whole time. And then I was like, you know what? Robert Fripp's a legend. I need to start like watching him, watching what he's going to do, and maybe I could steal some technique. And we had really good seats. So I'm up there and I'm staring intently at Robert Fripp. And he's playing this thing, and it was like this really slow upscale, like walking up the stairs. But it was like quarter time as opposed to the rest of the band, or you know, like it was super slow. So he's doing this repeating scale thing, and he keeps like glancing up, and I'm like, I'm really looking at him, and I'm thinking, I'm stealing this. And then I'm thinking like, what is he going to do next? How is he going to get out of this? And all of a sudden, he looked right at me, and he like scowled. And then he furrowed his brow, and I heard this flurry of notes. And about a second later, he played the exact thing that I heard in my head. And all of the blood drained out of my head. It all went directly to my feet. I went like I swallowed. Robert Fripp mind melded me. First he caught me trying to steal. And then he read my mind because he knew that I was like, how is he going to get out of this? What is he going to play to get out of this ascending scale that's so creepy and like kind of didn't really fit, but it fit perfectly? This thing he was playing, I'm like, how is he going to get, what is he going to play next? How is he going to get out of that? And he made these weird faces when it all went down. He was looking at me like, yep, uh-huh. And I heard it, this flurry, this like, wheedle, 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 like whatever it was like some 2-finger or 3-finger tapping. It was like an arpeggiated thing. And not even a second later, that was what he played. And it, like, I got so shook up from it because nothing like that has ever happened to me. I'm not one of these persons that's like, oh, I can see your aura and, you know, you need to go play the lottery tomorrow, or, you know, watch out for green cars. Don't get in a green car. I'm not like that at all. And I never had anything of like Robert Fripp as a warlock. I knew he was a weird guy. He tells that story about the new standard tuning came to him when he was sitting in a hot tub in New York. But so I knew he, you know, the one thing that I always really suspected about him was that that stiff upper lip British thing with him, that he's got a really excellent sense of humor under that, but it's impossible for us as Americans to see through that bullshit tough guy thing that he does. The you know, British Genius persona. But really inside, he's really a funny guy, and I think he's a brilliant guy too. Obviously, he is one of the true masters. So horror, yes, definitely. Comedy, more than likely, it's going to be funnier than shit if Robert Fripp is in it, and I cannot wait. I am so excited to watch this documentary. So thank you for spending some time with me. We learned about the new zooms. And as far as whether or not you watch the Grateful Dead movie or in the Court of the Crimson King, don't. I'm sure there's much better stuff for you to watch. All right, you guys, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Hope you have a great New Year's. And hug your pets. That's the most important thing. Peace.